Hello and welcome to an amazing podcast. This is D and Modi, and we are talking about Yasuke, a Netflix original anime created by Mappa and written by what was the writer's name?
LaShawn Thomas, I think. Or I
Yep.
think he's the creator. I don't know if I'm sure he had a big part in writing it, but I don't know who actually wrote the script. But yeah.
I feel like it was him because this is, and we can pull that up real quick right now. Quality podcasting, doing our research as soon as we were recording, but I feel like he is the writer because it feels like a very Western show. This feels like such an East meets West, peanut. Yeah, he was one of the writers. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me either.
Actually, yeah, all the writers were, by the looks of it, American, or at least Western.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is the first thing from him that I've seen that he's created. I know he also made a series either last year or the year before called Cannon Busters, and I've been meaning to see it, but I still haven't seen it. Oh yeah? Okay,
I've seen the first
I'll have to check it
episode,
out.
and I enjoyed it. Can't tell you about the rest of it.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I still have to check that out. But yeah, other than that, I just know him from the internet really, because he did Boondocks and he also did Black Dynamite and he also did something else that I can't remember. But yeah, he's done quite a few things that I like, so I've kind of been following him for a while, and it's pretty interesting seeing him actually become a full-fledged creator and director, because I remember hearing that at some point he spent years in Korea just animating, so
Jeez.
he's really put in his time, learning getting deep in the trenches and really learning how animation works. And yeah, I guess now he's in Japan and he's making anime, so that's cool.
And he's with a good team. Alright, so for the uninitiated, Yasuke is the historical, air quotes, retelling, air quotes, of the samurai Yasuke, who was actually an African warrior brought into Japan, who served as a samurai under Oda Nobunaga, an actual historical figure, which again, super interesting and super fun, and one of my favorite parts of this. He then went on to fight giant robots, magical samurais, demons, mutants, and etc., etc. Which, okay. Yeah. So I have a lot of feelings about this show. The first one is I really enjoyed it. Second one, it is not a perfect show, but it's the kind of show where it's really fun, and I think the flaws of it are kind of like the shadow that makes the good stuff about it shine out a little bit more. I know that sounds weird, but I'll elaborate further. For me, the high points and pros for this show are definitely the music was great, visuals amazing, animation awesome, and really great character designs. And second half, super great, and half of the first half was also really great. My cons with this are, at the very beginning, Yasuke felt like a very sort of blandish character. Although, in my opinion, I enjoyed him a lot more in the second half. And I feel the world building in this had a bunch of hiccups.
I definitely agree with that. I feel so before I started watching the series, I was already hearing from a lot of people, and it seemed like the reception wasn't that good. People were saying the main things I was hearing was it was too much going on, world building wise, and also probably a similar thing to what you said about Yasuke, I guess, seeming kind of boring. And I feel like that's from people. It's not what people expected. I think people expected the flashback part of the story to be the story itself.
Me too.
And yeah, and a lot of people were also saying that that it wasn't historically accurate. But I think I'm not sure how historically accurate you can be, because like I think literally all we know about Yasuke, like the actual person, is just the fact that he was an African samurai and he became a samurai under Nobunaga. And I think like anything else, if you were going to make a story out of that, you pretty much have free reign to do anything, because that's literally all that we historically know. But yeah, I also thought, like, just knowing that I would have also expected the story to be more about what was going on in the flashback. But I didn't have a problem at all with the actual direction that the story took.
Me neither.
I thought it was interesting. But I just think one of the biggest problems for me in the beginning was the pacing, and also towards the end was the pacing. Like in the beginning, the pace felt slow, and in the end, it felt way too fast. Like overall, I think we'll probably get more into it, but just like as an opening thought, I thought Yasuke has a lot of potential, but it was just like really ambitious for 6 episodes.
This series, you know what the series felt like? This feels like a lesser, more successful version of God of High School. Like, I feel like these 6 episodes has enough content for a 50-episode anime being like frugal. Like, I think you could have easily made like a 3-season, 24-episode anime out of this stuff easily.
I agree. Yeah, I wouldn't say 50, but I could definitely see, like, I think 24 episodes it would have, if this was 24 episodes, it would be spectacular.
I agree.
Because it's just so much stuff that was condensed, like from the, the world building itself. So like, the magic and the mechs and the
mutants,
the mutants, the shapeshifters. It's like, I don't have a problem accepting that. Necessarily, like, I'm actually okay with having all that stuff in one world, and even like the fact that it's mechs in like the 1600s or whatever time period it is. I'm actually okay with that, but I just would want it to be explained at least a little bit, like just some sort of explanation, and it just didn't feel like it was.
See, for me, they had an explanation that had me cracking up, but we'll get there soon. But for me, the reason it worked so well as opposed to like God of High School was it was upfront with you about what kind of world this is. It wasn't trying to like drip feed you. Like, from the very first episode, it was like, this is there's magic in this world. There are giant robots. This is a straight up super fantasy world. Strap in for it. And all of the stuff is normal, so don't worry about it. Like, if this was the kind of series where it went straight feudal Japan war drama for like the first 12 episodes, and then all of a sudden we started seeing like werewolf bears, like Indian magicians and all that kind of stuff, and they never explained any of it, I would be really annoyed. But the fact that they were just like shotgunned it to you at the very beginning set me straight for the rest of the time.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I have to give them credit for that, because it would have been shocking if they had like introduced that later on. Like, it's actually a really good thing that even though it wasn't explained much, it's a good thing that they at least like gave it to you right up front in the first episode, like literally the first scene. And like, if you didn't like it, then okay, and if you were okay with it, then you continue. That's a good point.
Because that's the thing that like God of High School did wrong, was that it had some mystery or hinted at the magical stuff, but it presented itself as a straight up martial arts kung fu movie kind of thing. If they were just like, okay, cold open, 2 guys fighting with stands, this is completely normal, go on with your daily life, I would have been a lot more open to the show than I was initially watching it.
Yeah, I agree. But like, even with that, for me, that was like a secondary part to a larger problem of just like, if I could just like say, if I just had to say like one thing that was the problem for me in the series, is like we said earlier, it's just too short.
Yes.
And because of that, the pacing was like just very weird. Like, in the first half, I mean, like, yeah, you know, they were in the village and all that. It kind of makes you think the story's going to be kind of different than what it is, right? Like, if you hadn't read the premise, because, like, you would think it's, like, about him and the boy and, like, maybe the boy becoming a samurai, something like that. Looking back, after having finished the series, it almost feels like that stuff was, like, not really necessary.
Yes.
So, and it felt, it was weird how they had, another thing that kind of felt unnecessary in retrospect was the church, the priest villain.
Completely.
Because, yeah, like, I don't really see the point. Like, rather than having had him, like, you know, in the first 3 episodes, you could have just had the daimyo as the villain from the very start, and then that could have given you more time to, like, build stuff up to that and make that even more climactic. Because, like, especially after they got to the doctor, things just kind of moved at, like, lightning speed. Like, I think it was, like, the beginning of either episode 4 or episode 5. I think at the beginning of episode 5, like, 1 minute he drops off the girl, like, at the sensei, right, the magic teacher, right, and then he goes and, like, he knocks out some guys, and then he goes through some gate, and I was just, like, really confused. And then the next episode,
he teleports, like, directly back there, and he's like, yeah, let's fight, let's do this.
And yeah, and now it's like a war. It was just like, wait, what? Like, what just happened? You know, like, that was weird. That was, like, a very weirdly paced thing for me.
I definitely agree with you. Like, on terms, so I have, like, there are 2 main issues I have with world building, and I'll get to the, like, my biggest issue is with the priest. And that issue is, I think he instantly and simultaneously destroys my consumption and understanding of the world building. Or rather, I think that was, like, a critical blow to how this series was sort of introducing you into their world, because it establishes that this is a different form of Japan than we historically know, but it doesn't show you how this world, like, Japan is different from, like, the rest of the world.
From the rest, yeah.
Like, it tells you it's different, and you know it's different, but you don't know how it's different. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they start bringing in all these international, like, characters from, like, vastly different power systems, beliefs, world styles, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, whoa, like, what's the rest of the world look like? Like, I want to know about that, like, Indian guy story. Like, whoa, where's that giant robot come from?
Right, yeah. And, like, to add some context now to this, I saw on Twitter, like, apparently the creator said that this is just, like, the beginning of, like, a much larger thing. So, like, this is kind of just, like, the first installment of something that's, like, of a much wider world that they're going to be, like, fleshing out and making more of. So, looking at it through that, I understand why maybe they wanted to put all that stuff in, because it's obvious. It seems like they weren't intending it to just be a standalone thing, and like all of that stuff is going to be explained more later. But I feel like if this is like the first glimpse into this world that you're creating, right? So rather than, like, unless this first glimpse is going to be like 20 episodes or 30 episodes, if it's going to be short, rather than, like, putting everything in like 6 episodes, I would rather if it just focused on, like, making, like, a good, well-paced, interesting story with some of those, like, elements, but, like, not so much that it's, like, distracting. Like, you could have maybe hinted at the fact that there are mechs, right? Yeah. Like, not actually showing any mechs. Or you might have maybe hinted that there was other types of magic besides the magic that they're practicing, you know, the Japanese guy was practicing. But, like, by putting all that together all at once, it was just, like, it just felt too much. Yes. And the other reason that the short length hurt the show, I think, is because it also made it so that, like, the connections between the characters didn't, like, feel that strong. Like, exactly, the only connection that I actually felt was real was between Yasuke and the little girl, I forgot her name. Like that's the only one that felt like a real thing, right?
Right.
But like for example, like the scythe lady and the robot,
Yeah.
that almost got to my feels, right? Almost, but
That
it
was
just
such
didn't
a
because
death flag, though.
yeah, it happened it was so quick, like literally, like she calls him friend, right? And then 2 minutes later she dies. It's like, if she had called him friend like 3 episodes ago and you had seen their friendship come together and then she died, that would have been interesting. It was still kind of sad, but like, Robot is my favorite character, by the way.
Yeah.
I like that dude.
See,
But
that's my other issue. Like, when I was like near like they were getting to the final act when all the mercenaries showed up and they had like the whole lineup of all of them, I was just like, damn, that's a cool looking superhero team. I would totally read an Avengers comic featuring those characters.
yeah,
But then they just go off and like cold the shit out of them and just start killing people off, Yamcha-ing them left and right. I'm just like, that was such a waste.
yeah, I agree.
Although one thing I would also say is that you're definitely right, because I wish the whole like Samurai Oda Nobunaga stuff had a full like 6 or 12 episodes, because you could have gotten a really interesting like flow, like structure out of that, where like boom, we see what's going through Yasuke's head, we see his like transition from a slave to like a servant to a samurai, we see what he's going through, and then like all throughout these campaigns we keep hearing about like the Mongols, they're invading, they have like these new weapons that are like really dangerous. We don't know like that there are giant robots out there. We just know like this is just feudal Japan, so we're like, oh man, they have guns? Do they have like cannons?
That's
and
so
then
true.
all of a sudden, like we finally break through. We're at Tsushima. By the way, I'm super mad I didn't see any giant robots in the Ghost of Tsushima game. Complete ripoff. And then like we're ready to fight their like new weapon, and then all of a sudden, boom, giant robots. They get wrecked, and then all of a sudden, like this is Yasuke's moment where he's like, he's the hero. He has to like rally everyone together, and he has to like come up with a plan to win. He wins. He takes them down, and he like submits himself in like Oda's court. We have the robots, and we slowly start seeing like how that has changed our society. We see it building up with the technological stuff, and then boom, next season, Daimyo appears, all the tech stuff starts going south, and then it's like the full-on magical war, yada yada. Second season done. And then we go into the third season. We already know that there's a bunch of really crazy magical shit going on outside of Japan. And then, boom, we see, like, the mercenaries. So we finally get to see, like, oh man, so this is what kind of fighters are out there. Since we've already gotten used to, like, all the Japanese stuff. And we have that as a nice little mix-up. And then we, boom, final season, fight back to defeat the Daimyo, revenge for, like, season 2, yada yada.
The way you described it is kind of how Castlevania progressed. Like,
yes.
Castlevania started off small and it just grew, right? The scope of the story and the world just grew and grew and grew and grew. And I think that's what it should have done. And yeah, the thing I agree most with you on is I really do feel, although it would have been like the safe thing to do, right? I really do feel like the story should have started at least this first quote unquote season. Like if it's going to be 6 episodes, it should have just started with Yasuke from the beginning, like when he landed, you know, like I don't think it was a bad way. Like showing it through flashbacks was interesting given the story that they decided to go with, but it would have been good too. I would have liked it a lot if they had just started from, you know, from the moment Yasuke gets to Japan and how he, you know, his path to becoming a samurai, and like if we were introduced to magic during that and we hear about mechs and robots, I wouldn't want to see it at first. The thing I didn't agree with you on is like when you said like, boom, we see like the robots come. I wouldn't want that. I think that would like put me off. I would want it to be like a slow build. Like I would want to get warmed up to it before I actually saw it because it would be shocking. Like,
Right.
I think if you're gonna do it, the only way to do it is to like just show it right away in episode 1, which is what they did, or to like build it up gradually.
Right.
But yeah, I really do think it would have been better if, since this is something that is supposed to like build into something bigger, I wouldn't see a problem with just starting off from the beginning, and that would have been good enough. That would have been perfectly good enough, and it wouldn't have been like too ambitious. I think, like I said at the beginning, like the biggest thing is just I think it was too ambitious for the amount of episodes it had.
Now, I will say, like, a lot of series that want to go the whole, like, cinematic universe, like, route make the mistake of, like, not telling a complete story at the beginning, but then instead try to make it, like, episode 1. I feel Yasuke falls into that same trap, but it had enough foresight to make its story the main focus. Like, you had, like, the side world building stuff. Like, ideally, you would want to follow the Marvel route, where, like, main piece of media is a self-contained story, and then at the very end, the very after credits, or maybe a few, like, background hints or something, is, like, the stuff that leads up to a bigger, like, universe. They sort of went that route, but clearly they put that kind of stuff, like, way much more front and center. But I do appreciate that it never felt like it hijacked the story they were trying to tell.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And when I think about it, actually, it's hard to imagine where Yasuke's story goes from here. Like, what would the conflict be? I feel like the only way to go is like outside of Japan, because they pretty much saved Japan, right? So I don't know, but then again, they probably
Japan.
have like so many options. Yeah. So it's interesting. Like I said, I just think it was too short. I know they like it's a first season, so like of an untested show. So I'm sure they just didn't have the budget to make it any longer than 6 episodes. But if that's the case, then I think they should have like cut down the amount of stuff they had in there and just like arrange stuff better, like not included that priest, for example. Like that just felt like kind of a waste of 2.5 episodes.
Let me say this. When I was watching this show, I absolutely loved every single Japanese element of the story. So like Yasuke, the feudal state stuff, the yokai, all that stuff I loved and had a smile on my face every second it was on screen. All the international stuff, like the priest, like the Hindi wizard, the werebear, that's the stuff where I was just like rolling my eyes at it a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't rolling my eyes at it, but I just, like, it would have even worked. Like, honestly, it would have worked. It would have been fine if the series was just longer. Like, if it just had more time, but it just felt too short. And it went too fast towards the end, and there just wasn't enough time to, like, really get attached to the characters. Even though they tried to, like, build a connection, but... Yeah. But like you said in the beginning, I also liked the art style. The visuals were very good. I also liked the music. And the animation was
animation.
Yeah. Oh, and let me also say my favorite part of the story. This is also why I think they should have focused in on the flashback stuff, right? My favorite part of the story was like that romantic story between him and I don't know if technically it was romantic, but like between him and the samurai from the other clan.
Yep.
If the story had followed that, like, along with the themes that it was going for, with like, Nobunaga trying to unify Japan, but Japan, it would fit so well, right? It makes sense what they're going for, because like when Japan was like getting, the reason they lost was because the foreigners brought in they brought in the new age pretty much with guns and all that, and foreigners themselves being samurai is the representation of that. All that makes sense. The fact that they made a woman samurai, the fact that they made an African samurai, all that. So that would have just been good in itself. Not that I didn't like the theme of the story that they told, but that could have been a good season 2,
Honestly, I don't know about you, but I would totally watch a samurai drama about Oda Nobunaga, his boyfriend, and his 40-year-old black son.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they never actually said. Did they ever say what happened to his son, Nobunaga's son? He escaped in the beginning, right? But did he die or something?
I think they said he died off screen.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so yeah, it would have been interesting if they did that. But I don't have a problem with the direction they chose. My main problem is just how long, how many episodes it was. It should have been longer, I think.
Yeah, because again, really, I really wish, like you said, we focused on the whole samurai stuff. Him integrating to the new country. Him dealing with the change in culture, because I hate to say it, but I feel like the selling point for a lot of people is just black samurai. Mm-hmm. But we never really see that cultural clash. Mm-hmm. We just see him land, get taken in by Oda Nobunaga, and then 30 years later he's a functioning member of the community that people are perfectly chill with. So
yep, yeah, and I don't even mind them not going with the obvious selling point of black samurai.
I mean, and
I truly don't mind the story direction that they went with him trying to save this girl who's the counterpart to the daimyo and all that.
Totally.
I just wish if that's the direction you're going in, it needed to be longer.
Yes.
And that's it. But if it's gonna be 6 episodes, you might as well just go with the safe option.
Honestly, though, let's all just say it. This is almost top tier weeb power fan, weeb fantasy right there. If I got isekai, I would like to be isekai as Yasuke. That sounds pretty nice.
It sounds terrible. I would not want that.
Are you kidding me? He has his own functional business. He was adopted by the shogun. He gets free drinks whenever he goes by the bar. Come on.
Nah, I'm good on that. I'll stay right here in the 21st century. But yeah, so do you have anything else you want to say about it?
Nope. I really enjoyed it. That was a good show, and I would give it a solid 7.5. And I would probably watch the second season if there ever is one.
Yeah, I would give the second season a chance. But I don't know if I would actually if it seems like it's going the same way as this first season. I don't think I would continue.
Yes.
And I would probably rate it 5 or 6. Yeah. So that has been our review of Yasuke. Maybe season 1 if they continue. I don't know if they will. Seems like they will. So yeah. Thank you for watching.
Tune in again next time and stay safe. Have a good one and check you later. Bye.
Bye.